So this is just an information session about our community stewardship and education program, Heritage Keepers. We are open for expressions of interest until the 12th of October. And we've been getting lots in from both schools and community groups, which is great to see. But there's still lots of time to fill out that EOI if you so wish. So just to tell you a little bit about the program, it's completely free to take part. We say an education and stewardship program because it's not just about education. It's not just about learning about the heritage in your area. Very importantly, it's also about taking an action, funded action for your heritage. So it's open to community groups and senior classes in primary schools. So by senior classes, we mean 5th and 6th class. And if, however, you're in a small school and 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th are all in the same room, that's no problem. And by community groups, we mean any kind of tidy towns, community development group, GAA group, men's sheds, anything at all that you can think of. Or even sometimes groups of adults will come together from the same place and form a group to take part in Heritage Keepers. So over 5 workshops, Heritage Keepers empowers participants to discover their local built, cultural and natural heritage, and then ultimately provides funding to allow them to take an action locally. So what's involved? Well, there's 5 2-hour workshops, and just to go through these workshops briefly, it starts with kind of an introduction and general idea of the place, and we talk about the Heritage Keeper approach. So we look at all the different layers of the place, what you like about your place, what you dislike, what you'd like to change. Then moving on to culture and the past in the second week. Usually we do each 2-hour workshop once a week for 5 weeks. So culture in the past is kind of self-explanatory, but using online resources, we investigate what life was like in your area, in your place in the past, looking at the legacy left by your ancestors, the stories, the folklore, the monuments, the archaeology. Week 3 then, biodiversity and land use, so the natural heritage that surrounds us. And we look to see changes in land use and our local environments, maybe think about what we can do to protect biodiversity locally. Week 4 then is where we start to consider the future, and we look at maybe things that we'd like to change, how we'd like things to be, and we start kind of getting some ideas of what we might do for our action and how we might move that forward. And then in week 5, in the last workshop, we plan the action that you're going to take. And when I say we, I mean you plan the action that you're going to take. We have kind of a what's called a place plan, and it really goes through step by step, like what you need to think about, like who's going to do what, when are you going to do it by, why do you want to do it. And after the 5 weeks are up, then you can submit that place plan and a very simple grant application form to us for some grant aid to do your project. And it's not just, I suppose, about the money as well. We're also there to give advice and to mentor really you through as you carry out your action. There's also an opportunity to apply for a grant for a field trip as well, and this would be a local field trip, so it's all about getting to know your local place. So how is it delivered? Well, apart from primary schools in the immediate locality, it's all online. So for schools during the day, it's online. There's various times available. You can see that on the EOI forms, and community sessions then the sessions for community groups are on in the evening time. So these online workshops have a maximum of 6 schools or 6 community groups at a time. And this can be really beneficial because you can really learn a lot, whether you're there, maybe you're in a community group in Dublin and there's a community group in Donegal on the Zoom session with you. We'll be sharing our ideas and talking about our challenges in our area and so on. So it can really be a benefit. So who can apply? So I think we mentioned this, primary schools, 5th or 6th class. DESH primary schools are entitled to an enhanced programme. So if you know any DESH schools, please let them know about the programme. Adult community groups, so new or existing, the only thing we say is that you have to have at least 6 participants in your group. And the reason we do this is because, you know, it is 10 hours of workshops and there is an action to be taken then. And if it's too small a group, it really doesn't work. It's not fair on the individuals in that group. So we ask for the email addresses of at least 6 participants when we're starting up. And then we say a maximum of 10 because you're going to be on the Zooms with other groups and everyone, we want to have time for everyone's voice to be heard if need be. So that's why we do it like that. There's also room for teachers to apply if they have completed the week-long training course that was held last June. That probably doesn't relate to anybody here on this information session. So what do you have to do if you commit to taking part? Well, I guess you fill out the EOI. We're open for expressions of interest till the 12th of October. You go to heritagekeepers.ie to fill that out. It's a very simple EOI form. Ask some very general questions. If you are accepted onto the Heritage Keepers program, we will let you know within a couple of weeks. And at that stage, then you can commit to engaging with the program. So it's 5 2-hour workshops is what you would be committing to, whether you're a class in school or whether you're an adult group. And then in the last week, we research and plan, and then eventually you will complete a local action. Which you will apply to us for funding. Now, some of the best actions actually don't cost anything. So, you know, it's not all about the funding, but the funding is there. And probably some of you want to know how much funding is available. So the funding available to groups, adult groups, community groups is up to €1,000 and up to for the action or project, and up to €350 for a field trip in addition to that. And for schools, it's up to €500 for the action or project, and in addition, up to €350 for a local field trip. DESH schools are entitled to an enhanced grant. So after you finish your project, you will complete a short report on the action completed, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Timeline, we're looking at starting the first week in November, running to early December. Or you also have the choice when you fill out the expression of interest form on our website to choose to do it early next year. That's January to early February. Again, 5 weeks. After which you apply for your place, your grant, if you so wish to do so. If you do the Heritage Keepers program, be it a school or an adult group, if you do it in November and December, you will have to have your action completed by the 25th of April, or if you're doing it in January, February, your project will have to be completed by the 6th of June. The only, I suppose sometimes people say, well, what if we're planting trees? And obviously trees are planted in the bare root season. So if it's something like that, you can get the grant money and, you know, plant the trees in the bare root season, which would be, if you miss this bare root season, it'd be the next bare root season, so next year. But other than that, you have to complete. So we're thinking small scale projects that can be completed within a few months. So this is just examples of some of the actions that have been completed. We're in this is our third year, our third round. We're opening for our third round of Heritage Keepers applications. So we've had all different kinds of projects completed, from biodiversity ponds to heritage trails, to planting trees, to place days, concerts of local traditional Irish music, booklets on local heritage. On our website, heritagekeepers.ie, there's great examples of lots of different actions that have been completed by schools and groups over the last 2 years. And we're also on Facebook and Instagram, you can see there. And again, there's loads of examples, loads of inspiration. So I think that is it. I am going to stop talking now, and hopefully there will be some questions that you can put to me. So I'm just going to stop the share there.
Just a question here, Mary, from Breach Lines.
Yeah.
Does the task itself have to be done by the 6 participants, or can you bring in technical expertise? For example, clearing overgrowth from an aqueduct might need an expert to look at it first.
Yeah, absolutely. No, we're all about working with the wider community and experts if need be. Very often a group will, it'd be unlikely that a group of the 6 adults would complete the project completely by themselves. Usually if they're maybe applying for funding, it's to bring in an expert or bring in somebody to work with them, or they may have people in their locality that they want to reach out to, like people in the men's sheds or so on. That they can work with. So there's no, we're not going to say, oh, those people didn't take part, so they can't take part in the action. No, not at all. Any other questions from anyone? There's no question too small or.
Yeah, so if you want, you can type it in into the chat and I'll read it out for you. Or if you want, you can raise your hand and I'll be able to allow you to ask your question in person. But we have another question here from Rebecca. Where can I do the teacher training for Heritage Keepers?
Okay, so the teacher training is on during the summer holidays. It's a 1-week course. It's one of those courses that you get days back. As a teacher, you'll probably know this as a primary school teacher, you get days back for doing certain courses during the summer. So I guess it'll be advertised when those courses are advertised. But you can always email me at mary@burnbio.com. I'll get your email address and I can let you know then when we open for those.
And that will all be advertised on the social media as well.
Absolutely, like, yeah. The social media is the best way to hear things like that in the news. Was there another question there?
Yeah, Liam has a question about community groups. Do all people signed up to the project have to attend online sessions?
Yes. And the reason for that is I know, say, for example, there's heritage groups out there who probably feel like they know absolutely everything there is to know about their local heritage, and that's great. But what we would ask of them maybe is to try and get a couple of people outside their group, maybe somebody in the tidy towns or the wider community, to come along with them. And they're kind of then exploring their place together. And I suppose even if there is just the heritage group themselves, it's a great opportunity. It's not like you're going to be, there's a lot of time in breakout rooms where it's just your group. You're talking among yourselves about the different things that we've been talking about in the session. So yes, and that, I mean, obviously, if 6 people sign up and one evening, there's only 5 people there, that's not a problem. But generally, we require 6 people to be there for the 5 workshops.
Now I have a couple of hands up here, Desmond and Martina. I don't know who had their hand up first, but Desmond, I think you might just have asked your question in the chat as well. So Desmond was going to ask, how is the money paid electronically, and how much grant aid can a community group get?
Okay, that's a great question, Desmond, actually. How is the money paid? So the way the money is paid is that we pay directly to the supplier. So say you were a community group, the maximum amount you can apply for us to is €1,000 for the project or your action. There's an additional grant of up to €350 for a field trip, okay? A local field trip. So say with the, sorry, there's just a question there slightly, I'll just put it off, it's a little bit distracting. Say with the, if you wanted to produce a booklet on a local myths and legends, for example, just something completely random. I don't think that's ever been done before. But what you would do is you'd get a quote from the printer, your local printer. We're all about doing things locally. And on that quote, he would have his IBAN and his or her BIC, or basically the bank details. You'd send that in to us with your grant application form and your place plan. And we then, if we approve it, would pay them directly. And we'll let you know then that the money has been transferred to you. Perhaps if you were doing a booklet, there might be a graphic designer involved as well. But what we say, and this is important for both schools and communities, that there's maximum 3 suppliers. And that doesn't mean you need multiple quotes, nothing like that, okay? You're just getting one quote from one person. For example, if you were going with a printer, you just get one quote from one printer. But if you were doing something in addition to that, like you wanted graphic design done before you were printing the booklet, you get one quote from a graphic designer. But you can't have more than 3 suppliers per grant application, because we have to set each person up on our system to pay them directly. We don't give the money to the community group, we pay people directly, and any more than 3 is a complication. So I hope that answers your question. Do you think I answered that there, Brian, about
no, you've covered it there, Mary. I think we'll keep going because there's a good few questions here now.
Okay.
So Martina, I think you're next. I'm going to unmute your mic there if you want to ask your question.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks very much. Just I work with the Heritage in School scheme, and I was wondering, would it be okay for me to apply on behalf of a class group that I would have done a lot of work with? Is that okay? I know I just was looking at the form there, and when you went to school, it looked for the teacher contact and the teacher details and all the rest. Would it be possible for me to kind of do that on behalf of the school and kind of be the main contact for them?
Martina, that's a really interesting question. Actually, we haven't really had that question before. I'd have to think about it, but my initial reaction would be probably not, because there's quite a lot of responsibility on the class teacher when we're doing the online sessions. They are in kind of between us and, say, the students. So we're explaining what has to be done, and then the teacher goes and does the tasks with the children and then kind of feeds back into the group. And also when it comes to the project, when it comes to getting costings, when it comes to actually carrying out the project and then writing the report for us, the short report afterwards, we feel that actually one of the reasons that we ask for the teachers' details and not just the school's details is, in the past, schools have signed up and then maybe nominated a teacher at the last minute to take part. And we felt it wasn't fair on the teacher, because there is, a bit of work involved. And it's completely fine if the teacher is interested in it and passionate about it, then they'll love it. But if it's not necessarily their cup of tea, then it would be problematic. So I'd say, by all means, contact your local school and tell them about it. I don't see a problem with you filling out the form for them and putting in their details, but it would have to be their email address that we would contact, because when we're doing the Zooms, like, it's into the classroom, if you know what I mean. So
yeah, that's perfect, Mary. That makes a lot of sense. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Martina.
Thank you.
Sorry, no, I'll get to you next, Caroline. Just before that, we have a question from David. Can a collaborative expression of interest be submitted? For example, a community group with a school or multiple schools working together?
Yes, so very often we really encourage community groups and schools, vice versa, to work with each other. But you will be doing, if you're a community group, you will be doing the sessions in the evening. But we would absolutely love, if you were a community group and you were doing the evening sessions, and then there was a primary school in your locality and they were doing the program as well, but they'd be doing the schools one during the day. You wouldn't actually be on the same Zooms. But we really highly encourage that. We love that if we have a community group and a school in the same area who are both doing the program, and then they can definitely, for their project, then they can collaborate. We're all about community outreach and involving as many people as possible and getting the message out there. So yeah, we love the idea of people working together for a project. You said something about maybe schools taking part together. we have tried that before with multiple classes in a school, and it didn't really work. So for each Zoom session, we can have 6 classes in that session. So and they'd be with the same class every week for the 5 weeks, and then they go and do their action.
It might be possible, you know, for one school to be the main participant, you know, and then if they had a project that they wanted to reach out and do it with the other school.
Absolutely. With
Yeah.
the project element, Brian, you're so right. With the project element, it really opens things up for doing something like that. But with the actual Zooms in the class, you know, one class would have to attend the 5 workshops. But I don't see any reason why, you know, other classes can't apply as well if they all want to apply, and then they can come together and do their project, or, you know.
Thanks, Mary. Caroline asks, can this include a project on old local photographs or research on local oral history?
Yes, absolutely. So the terms are very broad. I mean, when you say heritage keepers, you know, really heritage is just so massive, but anything in built cultural or natural heritage is more than acceptable. We'll talk about intangible cultural heritage in week 3, or week 2 actually, when we're looking at heritage keepers and all the different things that can contain. The only thing I'd say is for schools in particularly, it really helps if they go through the process of the 5 workshops, and then at the end, the last week, you know, they're thinking the whole time, maybe what could we do, but then they come up with the project, because it's amazing for children to be able to have an idea, you know, with their classmates, see this idea then come into action, come into reality, and it just it's a really positive thing. So I know sometimes teachers might have an idea, that's okay, about what they want to do, but really with groups and schools, we encourage people to go through the process before they kind of set on an idea of what they definitely want to do. But I mean, obviously some groups have an idea before they start, some community groups especially, and that's okay.
Liam is asking, what times do the online sessions take place?
There are 7 to 9 lanes. So they start at 7. We usually take a short 5-minute break at 8 o'clock, and then they say we finish at 9, and the facilitator, myself or whoever it is, will be there available to 9, but we try to finish up maybe about 8:40. So that just, you know, so like 7 to 8:40, but really you'd probably want to be available 7 to 9.
We have a question from Anne. So the heritage group can include people that do not necessarily need to be members of the community group?
No, definitely not.
Yeah,
they definitely don't have to be members of the community group, just to clarify.
Yeah. And even we were talking about that before, it might just be something that's, you know, sparked by our applications. You know, some people might get talking and decide that they're just going to collaborate to do this Heritage Keepers program. You don't necessarily have to have something prior to that.
Absolutely. We had 2 groups last year. Sorry, yeah, we had 2 groups last year who came together just to do the program. As long as you had a minimum of 6 people, you come up with a name, and that's your group.
Neve has a question. I think she asked this question before one of the other questions came in, so it's already really been covered. Hi, I'm a teacher and I'm interested in doing this with my class. Could I join forces with another teacher in another school near us and work jointly on the one project? So Mary was just saying that really each class would have to apply individually if they want to do the workshops. So if you're interested, Neve, you would apply on behalf of your class, and there's nothing stopping the other school applying as well. You could collaborate on a project at the end of that, but in terms of for the workshops, in terms of internet and technology and all of that, it really wouldn't be feasible to do a joint application for the workshops. So hopefully that covers that for you.
And you can collaborate with whoever you want when you're doing your project. You know, that's not something that we say, oh, they didn't do the workshop, so they can't, you know, be involved. We encourage schools to collaborate with each other and with community groups and so on.
Yeah, Liam asks if there is a community group / primary school collaboration, would there be the same requirement to have 6 community group signatories?
I'm afraid so, yes. But you know, if you didn't have, you thought there's not going to be 6, you could contact your local school, they could apply, and then maybe when it comes to the project element, you could help them with that or be involved with that if you didn't feel that you had a minimum of 6 people. But you know, don't forget, you can, people don't have to be in your group. You can reach out to the local GAA or whatever, see if anyone is interested in learning more about their local heritage, and maybe you'll get lucky.
Liz asks, I have submitted an expression of interest for a Tidy Towns group. Does the local national school have to submit their own expression of interest?
If they want to take part in the workshops, in the 5 workshops, and if they want to be eligible to get a grant, then yes. If they just want to do a bit with the project with ye at the end, where, for example, imagine if you decided you were going to plant trees and they helped you, then no. I hope that answers that question.
Yeah, and there isn't an inherent connection between, you know, for example, if a primary school in Castlebar applies, there might be another community group in Castlebar that applies to do it as well. They aren't inherently connected just because they're from the same place. Well, they are connected, but they're not connected in their application.
Yeah, absolutely. And they could decide, we could say, look, there's a school here with this community group, and they could decide to work with them on their project or not work with them on the project. Obviously, we would prefer if people worked together, but it's not compulsory.